be brought down. We're bringing it down. You can't wire a building in weeks to that perfect. Okay. The CIA ran the operation from the building.
All right, Alex, thank you. Let me just bring in somebody else here.
PrisonPlanet.com.
Okay, this is Ronald Wick. He's in New York. He's a broadcaster, well known in the US as a 9/11 conspiracy theorist debunker. Hello, Ronald.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Listen, my pleasure. Now, Building 7, can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, Building 7 is a good example of a conspiracy theory unraveling. In the 6 years since these conspiracy theories have been swirling around, no one has yet adduced a plausible motive for bringing down Building 7. There's simply no way of fitting this into a coherent conspiracy theory. Now, in the instance of the BBC prematurely reporting the collapse of the building, well, we can cite instances the Pope died 3 times before he actually died. James Brady, Ronald Reagan's press secretary, was announced as having expired when in fact he did not.
No, hang on a minute. But what's interesting here is they said a building had collapsed and it hadn't, and then shortly afterwards it collapsed.
Well, contrary to what Alex Jones has been saying, Building 7 was expected to collapse. We in New York were riveted to our television sets that day, and we were hearing that the building is dangerously unstable. The fire department had established a collapse zone. It collapsed. It surprised no one when it did. Now, think about this for a moment. Let's try something that a conspiracy theorist will never attempt, some critical thinking. The supervillains behind this conspiracy ask themselves, what is the network most implacably hostile to George Bush? And everyone says in unison, the BBC. And so then they say, aha, let's therefore present a smoking gun to the network that we distrust the most. Why should we do that? Well, we're wild men. I mean, why not do it? So then they approach the BBC with a script, and the BBC asks, I don't quite understand. Is the building falling or not?
That's not what I'm saying.
And then they say, yes, the building is falling.
No, that's
so the response then is, well, why do we need a script?
Okay, Alex Jones, yep.
Yes, I'd like to just add something here. No, we have firemen, police, emergency workers that said they were told to get back. It was going to be brought down in a controlled demolition. Then it falls.
No, you are not telling the truth.
Yes, we do, and you guys are being disproven. That's why everybody...
You are not telling the truth. The firemen did not say it was being brought down in a controlled demolition at all. That is an outright falsehood.
No.
They said the building was unstable and it was going to collapse.
This is it. We can't hear either of you. Right, fade Alex Jones out, please. Mike, Ronald, go ahead.
Yes, it's simply a falsehood. The fire department was not told anything about a controlled demolition. 343 firefighters lost their lives on that day. They were not complicit in this terrible, terrible catastrophe.
But maybe
to argue that they were is simply insane.
No, but maybe, Ronald, perhaps what happened here is people knew this building was unstable, so a warning went out, get out of the way because it's going to collapse. Is that?
Yes, that's
really
exactly what happened. The building was unstable. The fire department established that. They set up a collapse zone, and now these conspiracy theorists are somehow trying to link this event to their conspiracy.
Except Ronald, it's interesting Mike, what you were saying there, that no building, no steel frame building...
No big skyscrapers ever collapsed due to fire alone.
So
and what's strange about it still, Richard, is that it was nearly 7 years on, and we haven't had the final official report. Now, and because that hasn't happened... We still haven't had the final report on it.
The NIST report's due this summer.
Yeah, it's due in July, isn't it? I mean, but because of that, it does allow. And so it's one of these big things: is how do officials respond to people who say something untoward's happened? Because if there's a long gap, people fill the space, fill the vacuum with saying something's happened. There's explosions. We've heard it's controlled demolition.
Such an unusual event. Maybe this is the first ever steel frame building to have collapsed because of a fire. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps that's the answer. Neil.
Well, no, just to dwell onto that, I mean, yeah, everything's got to happen for the first time at some point, hasn't it? But what we seem to be forgetting here as well is this building had been sort of critically damaged by 2 huge buildings next to it falling on it as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is...
a 20-story gash on the south face.
But it is one of these things where, there are definitely lots of unanswered questions, or seemingly unanswered questions, at the start of it. I mean, another strange thing about Building 7 is that they actually, nearly every bit of steel from this building was taken away and melted down afterwards. And there is actually, it turns out there is one piece that's been kept, but you'd have thought, if it's an architectural first, it would be of quite an interest to most people to see whether skyscrapers are safe or not.
Yeah, so Ronald, you would accept there's a lot of unanswered questions with Building 7?
The steel was examined.
But I'm saying, do you accept
a widespread myth that the steel was simply bundled up and shipped away to China or something.
It wasn't kept, though, was it, Ron?
Not true.
Okay, I don't care about that. Do you accept there's some unanswered questions, Ronald, with Building 7?
Well, that's why we're all waiting for the NIST report. But people like Alex Jones will reject the NIST report without reading it.
Alex Jones, quickly.
That's a different sort of attitude entirely. Yes,
Alex,
people should ask questions.
Alex is going to speak on his own now. Alex.
Yes, just give me a minute here. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.com.
Come on, Alex.
I want people to see the facts. What you've heard, ladies and gentlemen, is disinformation. We do have the firemen, police, medical workers who heard the 10-second demolition countdown. The video is free all over the web. Firefighters saying that there was molten lava steel, 1,800 degree. 3 buildings fell from fire that day, not one, the first 3 in history. We have the NASA and aircraft photos of 2,600 degrees.
Okay.
Jet fuel. It wouldn't melt the people in the holes in the building, but it would melt giant steel columns. And earlier somebody said the government says fires did it. NIST has said 5 different things, had to withdraw all 5, and now they have been looking for 2 years. They were supposed to release 2 years. Hold on, let me tell you, this is key. 2 years. They are now saying in internal documents that have been put out publicly that they're looking at secondary bombs.
Okay.
Buddy, it's all going to come out.
Well, thank you, Alex.
Find out who's financing you.
Thank you, Alex.
Go to prison.
Let's go. Let's fade Alex out for now.
There's a small flaw in his reasoning.
Ron, would you agree? I'm a bit confused now. Do people like Alex believe that the CIA was behind the whole of 9/11? What's the logic?
Well, I think what you find is that you very rarely get a completely sort of worked out theory of exactly what happened. The who, the why, the how. You get a sort of a suggestion. Basically, that it was a controlled demolition.
But why?
Why? Because you had to sort of justify all the clampdown on civil liberties in the States and also wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What clampdown of liberties?
Well, that's what I'm saying, Ron. That's what people like Alex would say. I mean, well, we probably ought to hear what Alex says.
I don't want to hear. We're going to hear a bit more about it. But sorry, people like Alex believe that the government was behind the whole of 9/11. Is that where he goes with this?
Well, that becomes the next issue. So exactly who was involved in it? At that point, you don't start to get too many answers because you say, well, probably it was an inside job. Probably it needed to be an inside job. Well, exactly who then? And what sort of people would it take? How many people would need to be involved in it? And that's when it starts to get very unclear. And I've not seen a very fully worked out theory on that. You don't. What you get is the questions. You get lots of suggestions of witness statements saying things that possibly might have happened, but often when you get there, it turns out they aren't quite that. They've been selectively edited to say something.
Mark in Dorset says Neil and Buzz Aldrin did land on the moon, but photos used to celebrate the fact were taken during rehearsals in the US. The quality and composition was better than any of the pictures taken on the lunar surface. That's interesting. Neil Denny, like that? I'm trying to move on because I've got a headache actually from the 9/11 discussion.
Can I make one quick point about World Trade Center 7?
Oh, please.
These conspiracists keep fabricating these fabulous tales about molten lava and whatnot. They don't quite understand that shaped charges do not heat the structural steel. They knock it aside. In other words, you can set off a shaped charge and put your hand on the spot. It's not hot. They overlook that rather minor detail.
Hey, Ronald, I think that there was a second shooter involved in JFK's assassination. Do you believe that?
No.
Okay. It's just, even recently the Italian army did tests on a similar gun, didn't they? It's how it couldn't be reloaded that quickly. And the war...
Well, that's precisely wrong.
Well,
we had a 90-year-old gentleman using the Mannlicher Carcano for the ABC special on the assassination.
Yeah, no, I
he was able to get off the 3 shots in 6.3 seconds.
I know, but there were lots of people who then questioned the... I can't remember now...
Well, they're going to question anything.
Well, the Italian army, they might ABC News, tested this gun and it couldn't be reloaded that quickly. It just seems to me that of all of them, the Warren Commission didn't seem that thorough, and there were plenty of reasons why, or there were plenty of enemies out there, plenty of motives.
Well, sure, there are things wrong with the Warren Commission report, but if you read Gerald Posner's book, if you read about Lee Harvey Oswald, you'll never doubt that he was the shooter.
No, I think it was him and someone else. Neil Denny. quite a closing comment on anything you like. You got about 10
seconds. On that particular point, well, I just, I think the assassination of a president is something that's you would have thought was so important that they would definitely have wanted to get to the bottom of it.
There might be too many can of worms. Who knows? I mean, look, it's just there was the Warren. As I say, there's just something about the Warren Commission, and I frankly believe the Italian army when they say they couldn't reload the gun in that time, and that came out in the last few months. Mike, we've got to go. Alex Jones, we didn't hear any more from Alex Jones, but I didn't want to have to take any more paracetamol, so it's not the end of the world. Rod Sharp is next.